Are your legs suddenly cramping in the middle of the night, waking you up out of nowhere? Have you ever stood up only to feel like your calf just tied itself in a painful knot? Or maybe you've noticed that these cramps have gotten worse as you've gotten older, and no matter how much water you drink or how often you stretch, they just won't stop. What if I told you that fixing a few small mistakes in your diet could not only reduce these cramps, but potentially eliminate them altogether? And no, this isn't about drinking more water or popping supplements. In fact, some of the most common remedies people try might actually be making the problem worse. So, what are these mistakes? Why do they affect older adults more than anyone else? And what can you start doing today to fix it? You're about to find out. Before we dive in, go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you care about staying strong, independent, and pain-free as you age. This is exactly where you need to be. Let's begin with a surprising truth. Most leg cramps in older adults aren't just about hydration. Yes, that's part of it, but it's often a distraction from the real issue. As we age, our body processes nutrients differently, muscle tissues become more sensitive to small imbalances, and years of dietary habits start catching up to us. One of the biggest culprits? An imbalance between sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium, but not in the way you think. Most people assume, oh, I must be low in potassium, so they reach for a banana. But what if I told you that in many cases the banana isn't helping at all? That's because leg cramps aren't always about lacking one mineral. They're often about a pattern of over-consuming or under-consuming certain foods that gradually throws your body out of alignment. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Let's say you're eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, you're avoiding salt like the doctor told you, and you're limiting dairy because it upsets your stomach. On the surface, that sounds healthy, but what if those very choices are contributing to your cramps? You see, when sodium is restricted too much, especially in seniors, it can disturb the delicate balance of electrolytes. Sodium isn't the enemy it's often made out to be. Your body needs it to maintain fluid balance, nerve function, and muscle contractions. And if you're sweating more than usual or taking certain medications like diuretics, you're losing sodium even faster. But wait, it gets even more complicated. You might be drinking plenty of water, thinking you're staying well hydrated, but if that water isn't accompanied by enough sodium or electrolytes, it can actually dilute the minerals in your blood. Think about that. The very thing we're told to do to prevent cramps, drink water, can make it worse if we're not replacing what's being lost. That's why, for some older adults, increasing healthy sources of sodium, like lightly salted bone broth or fermented vegetables, can make a dramatic difference. Now, let's talk about potassium, magnesium, and calcium. These are the three other key players in muscle function, and the balance between them matters more than the absolute amount of any single one. If your diet has been high in processed foods, refined sugars, or you've had periods of restrictive eating, your levels could be out of sync. Magnesium, in particular, is often the silent deficiency. It doesn't always show up clearly on blood tests, but it's essential for relaxing the muscles. Without enough magnesium, your muscles can become hyperexcitable. Imagine trying to rest at night when your body feels like it's on alert. That's what can trigger those sharp, stabbing cramps. But why do so many seniors fall short on magnesium? Because it's not just about what you eat. It's also about what you absorb. As we age, stomach acid levels tend to decrease, which affects our ability to absorb magnesium from foods like leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and legumes. If you've been taking antacids or proton pump inhibitors, that can further interfere. So even if you're eating well, your body may not be getting what it needs. This is why incorporating magnesium-rich foods and supporting digestion is a game changer. Think, soaking your nuts and seeds before eating them, using apple cider vinegar before meals to improve stomach acid, and reducing processed grains that can block magnesium absorption. Let's shift gears and talk about calcium, because here's where many people make another hidden mistake. We've been taught that calcium is good for bones and muscles, so more must be better, right? But excess calcium from fortified foods and supplements, especially without enough magnesium or vitamin K2, can actually do harm. Instead of going into your bones, it can deposit in soft tissue, including your blood vessels and muscles, leading to stiffness, poor circulation, and, you guessed it, cramps. This is especially true if you're not getting calcium from natural sources like sardines with bones, cooked leafy greens, or fermented dairy. And what about the role of vitamin D? This might surprise you. Low vitamin D doesn't just weaken your bones. It can disrupt how your muscles function too. It plays a critical role in calcium regulation and nerve signaling. Without enough vitamin D, your muscles become less responsive, and your nerves may misfire, triggering spasms and cramps. Many seniors are deficient without realizing it, especially if they avoid sun exposure or live in colder climates. Adding vitamin D-rich foods like egg yolks, salmon, and fortified mushrooms can help, but in many cases, a supplement is necessary, ideally one that includes K2 for better calcium direction. Now let's tie this all together with one more puzzle piece: insulin resistance. You might be wondering what blood sugar has to do with leg cramps. A lot, actually. When insulin levels are chronically high, it alters how your body retains sodium and magnesium. High insulin tells your kidneys to excrete more magnesium, and it can increase calcium levels in the wrong places. It also contributes to chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and microvascular damage. That means your nerves and muscles aren't getting proper support. If you've been eating a diet high in sugars, refined carbs, and processed fats, this could be a hidden root of your cramps. And here's the part no one tells you. Insulin resistance can exist long before your blood sugar ever becomes high. You might not have diabetes or even pre-diabetes and still be dealing with the effects. That's why shifting to a more blood sugar stable diet, rich in healthy fats, quality proteins, and fiber from non-starchy vegetables, can radically reduce cramps and improve muscle recovery. You're not just fixing a symptom, you're addressing a system-wide imbalance that was quietly causing havoc. Think about your current habits for a moment. Are you skipping meals and then overeating later in the day? Are you choosing low-fat foods that are loaded with sugar to make up for flavor? Are you relying on fruit juices, crackers, or cereals that seem healthy but spike your blood sugar? Every one of these choices affects the delicate orchestra of nutrients, hormones, and muscle signaling that keeps your legs pain-free. Here's something else. Poor sleep makes cramps worse, and cramps disrupt your sleep. It's a vicious cycle, and poor sleep raises cortisol, which worsens insulin resistance and magnesium loss. So improving your diet doesn't just fix one issue. It begins to unwind a whole chain of events that's been locking your body in dysfunction. Let me ask you this. How would it feel to finally sleep through the night without your legs locking up? To go for a walk? Do some gardening, or play with your grandkids without sudden, painful muscle spasms? It's not wishful thinking. It's what happens when you stop ignoring the signals and start feeding your body what it's really asking for. That starts with awareness. But awareness alone isn't enough. You need to take action. The first step, start noticing the patterns in your cramps. Do they happen at night? After eating certain meals? When you've been inactive for too long? Your body is trying to tell you something. Listen closely. Then look at your plate and ask, is this helping me heal, or is it quietly making things worse? If you're over 50 and your joints ache when you get out of bed, go upstairs or just try to enjoy a walk. It's not your age and it's not your fault. The real issue? Your body's running out of a natural substance that cushions your joints like a shock absorber, and most supplements out there, but glucosamine, collagen, all of it, don't fix this. But now, researchers have discovered a breakthrough that can actually restore what your joints are missing, and people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s are seeing real relief. If you're feeling stiff, sore, or weaker lately, stop guessing. Check the link in the pinned comment now. Now that you're starting to see how powerful diet really is, how even small shifts in what you eat can determine whether you spend the night peacefully sleeping or jolted awake by stabbing leg pain, let's go deeper, because we're only halfway there. The first few dietary mistakes you've just learned about are only part of the story. If you're still experiencing cramps, even after tweaking your hydration or magnesium intake, there's a good chance the next few things are still flying under your radar. Let's start with something that seems harmless, until it's not. Low-protein diets. As we age, many of us are told to eat lighter, smaller portions, fewer meats, less dense foods. And while there may be good intentions, behind that advice, what it often does is create a subtle protein deficiency. Now here's why that matters for leg cramps. Your muscles aren't just made of protein. They depend on a steady supply of amino acids to repair, recover, and stay strong. If you're not getting enough protein, especially complete proteins that provide all 9 essential amino acids, your muscles become more fragile, more likely to fatigue, and yes, more likely to cramp. This is even more important for seniors because of something called anabolic resistance. That means your body doesn't build or repair muscle as efficiently as it used to, so you need more protein per pound of body weight than someone younger, not less. And yet, what do we often see in the diets of older adults? Toast for breakfast, a small salad for lunch, and maybe a little pasta at dinner. Minimal protein. That pattern leads to slow muscle breakdown over time and more frequent muscle spasms. If your breakfast doesn't include protein, your day starts off without the fuel your muscles need. Instead of reaching for a muffin or skipping breakfast altogether, try eggs, Greek yogurt, or even leftovers from dinner. If that sounds strange, just remember, your body doesn't care whether it's breakfast food or not. It cares about getting what it needs. And now, let's address something that almost no one considers, yet it plays a major role in recurring cramps: poor circulation. As we age, blood flow to the extremities can decrease, especially if there's any degree of plaque buildup, chronic inflammation, or damage to the lining of your arteries. When your legs aren't getting enough oxygen and nutrients, even a small movement can trigger a cramp. This is why leg cramps are often worse at night, when your circulation slows and you're lying flat. But here's where food can either help or hurt. If your diet is still high in refined grains, processed oils like soybean or corn oil, and excess sugar, you're feeding inflammation. And that inflammation stiffens your arteries, slows blood flow, and damages the endothelium, the inner lining, of your blood vessels. The result? Less oxygen to your muscles, slower waste removal, and more cramping. But the good news? When you start focusing on circulation-supportive foods like beets, arugula, salmon, avocado, olive oil, and even garlic, you can actually reverse a lot of this damage. These foods support nitric oxide production, reduce inflammation, and help your blood vessels stay flexible. Let's go even further. Think about your digestion. Strange connection, right? But it's critical. If your gut isn't absorbing nutrients properly, even if you're eating all the right things, you could still be deficient in magnesium, calcium, potassium, or B vitamins, all of which play a role in muscle health. And as we get older, low. Stomach acid, gut dysbiosis, or medications like antacids or metformin can reduce our absorption efficiency. The result? Silent deficiencies that show up not as fatigue or hair loss, but as muscle spasms. So what can you do? First, eat more whole, unprocessed foods that support gut health. Think fermented vegetables, bone broth, cooked greens, ginger, turmeric, and probiotic-rich yogurt or kefir. Second, consider spacing out your meals so your digestion has time to fully complete. And third, chew slowly. It sounds too simple to matter, but chewing thoroughly is the first and most underrated step in digestion. Now let's hit a big one that's hiding in plain sight: alcohol. Yes, even the just a glass of wine at dinner habit that seems harmless. Alcohol dehydrates the body, reduces magnesium, and interferes with sleep, all of which are perfect conditions for cramps to occur. And for older adults, the liver doesn't detoxify alcohol as efficiently as it once did, meaning the effects linger longer. If you've noticed more cramps after an evening drink, it's not a coincidence. Try going alcohol-free for a week and see how your legs respond. You might be shocked at the difference. But what if you've addressed hydration, electrolytes, protein, circulation, digestion, and even alcohol, and you're still dealing with cramps? That's when we turn to a less obvious but deeply influential factor: your nervous system. See, muscle cramps are not just about the muscle. They're about nerve signals. And those signals are heavily influenced by two things: stress and sleep. When you're under chronic stress, your body is in a constant state of tension. The sympathetic nervous system, your fight-or-flight mode, is activated more often. That makes your muscles more likely to spasm. Combine that with poor sleep, when the body is supposed to recover and restore, and you get a system that's constantly running on fumes. Cortisol, the stress hormone, also pulls minerals like magnesium from the body. And if your stress is driving you to comfort foods like chips, pastries, or soda, you're not just feeding stress, you're stripping your body of what it needs to stay calm. If you want fewer cramps, managing your stress and improving your sleep are non-negotiable. That doesn't mean you need to meditate on a mountaintop. It means creating a wind-down routine, cutting screen time before bed, going for daily walks, and saying no to things that drain you unnecessarily. One more thing you might not have considered: medications. If you're on statins, diuretics, or even some antidepressants, these can deplete minerals or interfere with muscle function. Never stop a medication without talking to your doctor, but do ask whether it could be contributing. In some cases, switching to an alternative, adjusting the dose, or supplementing with key nutrients can make a big difference. So let's bring it back. You've now seen how cramps are not a random part of aging. They're a signal that your body is craving balance, that something, somewhere in your lifestyle needs adjustment. And the beautiful thing is this: you have more control than you think. Each bite you take, each food you choose, and each small habit you shift can bring relief, reduce pain, and return strength to your legs. So let me ask you, what will your next step be? Will you keep reaching for that banana and wondering why it's not working? Or will you take this knowledge and turn it into action by building meals that restore, heal, and fuel your body the way it was meant to be? If you found this eye-opening, you're going to love what's coming next. Don't stop here. Tap into more surprising science-backed health insights by watching the video right here on your screen. Trust me, your body will thank you.